On the night of June 24, 1978, 18-year-old Trudie Adams, a lively, spirited young woman with a bright future, left a party with friends at the Newport Surf Club, a popular gathering spot nestled along Sydney's northern beaches. That evening, after a fun night out, she set off on her journey home, just like any other young woman would, without any sign of worry or danger. But as fate would have it, this was the last time anyone would see her. That night, Trudie vanished into thin air, leaving behind a haunting mystery that would grip the local community and Australia for decades. Northern Beaches, known for its pristine shores and close-knit communities, was the kind of place where, with fear and unease, as the peaceful place they had always known turned into something far darker. Trudie had spent the evening for young people in the area. Around 12:30 a.m., after a night of dancing and laughter, she left the club, hoping to catch a ride home. She accepted a ride from a passing vehicle, and from that moment, Trudie Adams vanished without a trace. When she didn't return home, her family's disappearance, a disturbing pattern had developed in the area, a string of attacks on young women under similar circumstances. Yet no arrests had ever been made, and no one had been held accountable. Investigators now wondered, could Trudie be the victim of a serial offender? Or had she encountered someone entirely unexpected that night? Suspicions and theories mounted, but each one seemed to lead to another dead end. The mystery of Trudie Adams' disappearance became not only an unresolved case, but a lasting wound in the heart of the Northern Beaches community. More than 40 years have passed, and the question of what really happened to her still lingers unanswered. What happened to Trudie on the night she left the Newport Surf Club? Did she fall victim to a predator lurking in the shadows, or is the truth even deeper than anyone could imagine? This is not just the story of a disappearance. It's the story of a community's struggle to reclaim its lost peace. A story that serves as a constant reminder of the hidden dangers that can lie even in the safest of places. Join us as we delve into the haunting mystery of the disappearance of Trudie Adams. In the late 1970s, Northern Beaches in Sydney was known as an idyllic and safe place to live. This was a peaceful area famous for its long, pristine beaches, lush green forests, and cool coastal air. Families had lived here for generations, creating a tightly knit community where everyone knew each other, and crime seemed almost unthinkable. Northern Beaches felt like a world apart from the bustling city of Sydney just a few miles away. However, on the night of June 24, 1978, a terrifying event changed everything. The disappearance of young Trudie Adams shattered this peaceful community, leaving a wound that has lingered for more than 4 decades. Trudie Adams was 18 years old at the time, intending to hitch a ride back home. At the time, hitchhiking was a common practice in Australia, especially in tight-knit suburban areas like Northern Beaches. It was normal, and even considered safe for young people to stand by the roadside and catch a ride with passing locals or visitors. Trudie seemed to have no reason to feel uneasy or suspicious that night. After a short wait, a car pulled over, and Trudie got in, likely assuming she'd be home soon, safe and sound. But that was the last time anyone ever saw Trudie Adams. As the hours passed and morning arrived, Trudie's family realized she hadn't come home. Concern quickly grew into panic, and unable to reach her, they reported her disappearance to the local police immediately. The police launched an urgent search. Similarities were difficult to ignore, sparking fear and suspicion within the community. The police widened their investigation, interviewing hundreds of witnesses and interrogating several suspects. Theories surfaced. Perhaps Trudie had fallen victim to a serial predator, or perhaps she encountered a stranger with malicious intent that night. Long hours of questioning went on, but every lead seemed to hit a dead end, and the police were unable to identify any clear suspects. Though their efforts yielded no concrete answers, Trudie's case shook Northern Beaches to its core. The community, once accustomed to the calm and security of their peaceful coastal life, now faced a reality of fear and uncertainty. Her family and friends held on to the hope that Trudie would return, but as days turned into weeks and then into months, that hope began to fade. Northern Beaches was no longer the safe haven it had once been. Locals began to take more precautions, avoiding hitchhiking and staying close to home at night. Newport Surf Club, once a beloved social hub, now held an eerie atmosphere as people couldn't help but think of Trudie whenever they passed by. Her disappearance changed everything, turning a once idyllic town into a place where danger felt real and present. 40 years later, Trudie Adams' disappearance remains one of Australia's most enduring unsolved mysteries, leaving behind a legacy of heartache and unanswered questions. What really happened to her on that fateful night? Did she encounter a shadowy figure lurking in the darkness, or is the truth even more complex than anyone could imagine? The story of Trudie Adams reminds the people of Northern Beaches of the hidden dangers that can exist even in places that feel like the safest in the world. Trudie Adams remains as a part of its legacy, a reminder of a loss that can't be easily erased. Trudie's story lives on, echoing through time as both a mystery and a memory, leaving us all with a lingering question. What really happened to Trudie Adams that night?
But before, continue subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to stay updated when we publish new content for your spiritual growth.
For young people, now evoked sadness and anxiety, serving as a grim reminder of Trudie's loss. Fear and uncertainty united the community in their support for Trudie's family and in pressuring the police to keep the investigation alive. Volunteers organized searches, held vigils, and gathered to pray for Trudie's safe return. Yet as time went on, with no leads materializing and baseless rumors spreading, the community's worry gradually turned into despair and sorrow. The disappearance of Trudie Adams was more than just a tragic event. It fundamentally altered how the people of Northern Beaches viewed their safety. The case served as a painful reminder of hidden dangers that could exist even in close-knit, seemingly secure communities. The prolonged and inconclusive investigation left a lasting scar on the community, raising unanswerable questions about Trudie's fate and leaving behind a feeling of sorrow and unease that persisted for years. Evidence connecting these assaults to Trudie's disappearance, the similarities raised suspicions. The police and the community began to wonder if she had encountered the same perpetrator that night, only to meet a more tragic fate. Another potential lead emerged as police examined the area's criminal records. In the years following Trudie's disappearance, several known offenders were arrested, some of whom were linked to assaults and other violent acts against women. However, when police interrogated these individuals, they failed to find any solid evidence linking them to Trudie's case. Some of these suspects even had alibis that placed them elsewhere on the night of her disappearance. Despite persistent rumors and suspicions, the investigation could not definitively connect these individuals to Trudie's case. Some speculated that Trudie might have been the victim of a random accident or an abduction by an unknown stranger. The theory suggested she could have accepted a ride from someone she didn't know, who then took her far beyond the initial search area. The fact that neither Trudie nor any trace of the vehicle she was last seen entering was ever found lent credence to the idea that this may have been a carefully orchestrated abduction. This scenario implied that the person responsible may have intentionally left no trace, complicating efforts to find her or any leads connected to her case. As the years went by, Trudie's case remained unsolved, and theories about her fate continued to haunt the Northern Beaches community. Some questioned if there might have been a broader network of individuals involved in her disappearance, while others wondered if the truth lay with an unknown, solitary figure who evaded detection. Each of these theories, however, has remained just that, a theory. Despite numerous interrogations and suspicions, none of the leads produced definitive answers, and no one was ever formally charged in connection with Trudie's disappearance. The community of Northern Beaches remained haunted by the mystery, with lingering questions that were never fully addressed. To this day, Trudie Adams' case is considered one of the most perplexing unsolved disappearances in Australia, leaving her family and community wondering if the truth will ever come to light, or if Trudie's fate will remain an enigma. In the waking, even in close-knit communities like Northern Beaches. As a result, the practice of hitchhiking declined sharply as people became more cautious, with families and friends urging young women to avoid taking risks especially when traveling alone. In addition, Trudie's case exposed serious gaps in the handling of missing persons investigations and contributed to calls for police reform. Over time, the New South Wales Police Force began implementing better protocols for responding to missing persons cases, developing clearer procedures and more stringent investigative techniques. Her case also led to more stringent practices for tracking sexual assault and violence cases, especially those involving repeat offenders. Trudie's unsolved disappearance remains an open wound for the Northern Beaches community. Her family continues to fight for justice, holding out hope that someone, someday, will come forward with information that could finally bring them closure. Documentaries, news coverage, and public appeals have kept her case alive in the public's consciousness, ensuring that her story is not forgotten. Her tragic story continues to remind the community of the need for vigilance and to support efforts that prioritize the safety and justice for all. Today, Trudie Adams's case stands as one of Australia's most haunting unsolved mysteries, serving as a reminder of the resilience and unyielding hope of those seeking justice. The impact of her story extends beyond her own family and friends, leaving an indelible mark on the Northern Beaches and beyond, a legacy that endures as both a call for answers and a lasting influence on public safety and awareness. The case of Trudie Adams remains one of Australia's most enduring and unsettling mysteries. Despite decades of investigation, new leads, and re-examinations, her disappearance is still classified as an unsolved case. Over the years, her file has been reopened multiple times, with fresh detectives reviewing the evidence in the hopes of uncovering any new information. Advances in forensic technology led authorities to revisit the case periodically, searching for physical clues that earlier investigations might have missed. However, each attempt has ultimately failed to provide the definitive answers needed to close the case. In recent years, several cold case units and investigative teams have continued to examine Trudie's case, often prompted by public interest and calls for justice from her family and the Northern Beaches community. The New South Wales Police also issued renewed appeals to the public, hoping someone with knowledge of the events surrounding Trudie's disappearance might finally come forward. These efforts have been accompanied by a number of documentaries and media investigations, each sparking temporary surges in public interest, but failing to produce a decisive breakthrough. Despite these efforts, Trudie's case remains officially unsolved, and no suspects have been conclusively identified or charged. Her family continues to live with the heartbreak of unanswered questions, and her story lingers as a reminder of the many challenges law enforcement faces with long-term missing person cases. While authorities remain open to new leads, the case of Trudie Adams endures as one of the most chilling, unsolved mysteries in Australia, emblematic of the resilience of a family and community that refuse to let her memory fade without justice. The story of Trudie Adams remains one of Australia's most haunting and unsolved mysteries, a case that has left her family and community in enduring grief and unanswered questions. On what began as an ordinary night in Northern Beaches, Trudie vanished without a trace, leaving a painful void and a search for justice that has persisted for decades. Despite relentless efforts by investigators and the application of modern forensic technology, her case remains unsolved. For her family, the years since her disappearance have been filled with hope, mixed with heartbreak, as they have waited for any sign of the truth. Her story is no longer just about an individual tragedy, but has grown to represent the resilience and unity of a community committed to seeking justice and safety. Trudie's case has raised public awareness about safety, especially for young people, and has inspired changes in the way missing persons cases are handled, underscoring the need for vigilance and community solidarity. Though no answers have emerged and Trudie's disappearance remains a mystery, her memory endures as a call to protect those who are vulnerable and to advocate for justice. While her case may forever remain unsolved, the story of Trudie Adams reminds us of the importance of persistence, compassion, and the commitment to seek the truth, even when it is elusive. Her legacy endures as a symbol of hope and a testament to the enduring impact that one life can have on an entire community.